everyone. Welcome to The Rebuild. I'm one of your hosts, Tara Hoops, along with Gary Winslet. And today we have not one, but two incredible guests joining us, Representative Nikki of Illinois and Representative Emilia Sykes of Ohio. Rep. Budzinski is the vice chair for policy of the New Democrat Coalition and represents Illinois' 13th congressional district, where she leads on issues like trade policy, keeping groceries affordable, supporting childcare and elder care, with prior experience working closely with labor, manufacturing stakeholders to support domestic production and local economies. Representative Sykes represents Ohio's 13th district, centered in Akron, and chairs the New Dems Housing Task Force, where she works on housing affordability. She was just tapped to chair a bipartisan problem solvers working group on tariffs, trade, and competition. So she's at the forefront of efforts to ensure fair trade and lower costs for our communities. Representative Budzinski, Representative Sykes, welcome to The Rebuild. How are you both doing today?
Great. Thanks for having me.
Fantastic. Thank you for having us. Looking forward to the conversation.
Yeah, we've been looking forward to it. But both of you have been working on what the New Democratic Coalition is calling the Affordability Agenda. It's basically a set of policies to lower costs for everyday people. Representative Budzinski, can you give us the big picture? What's this agenda all about?
Yeah, thanks for that question. I mean, this was a real member-driven process. I want to first start out by saying the New Dem Coalition, we're the center-left coalition in the House Democratic Caucus, 115 members strong. We all take on different kind of roles within our policy platform. And as Congresswoman Sykes mentioned, she leads our housing effort. The affordability agenda, which includes housing, it actually has 5 pillars to it. And we're really proud of this, as it was a member-driven process that I think puts forward policy prescriptions that on day one, when we take back the House majority in November and in January, we can lead on and we can make it happen to bring down costs in this country for working people. As you all know, this was a commitment that President Trump made on day one, and he has failed at doing that every day ever since then. The New Dems wants to put forward, and has with our affordability agenda, in these 5 key areas of, yes, housing, but also healthcare, utility prices, household goods and groceries. But then fifth, we also address the issues around family care, whether that's childcare or also elderly care. That need to be addressed as true kind of core affordability issues. What we've outlined in our plan, we really believe these are winning messages and winning policies in red, blue, purple districts. And so it's been a real team effort from our coalition, and just very excited that tomorrow we're going to be rolling out those policies.
We're super excited for the release to come out. I love how you mentioned when we win the House, because I am like you. I am going to be so optimistic about these midterms. I do believe that Democrats are finally centering on messaging, and the policies that you guys have highlighted in this agenda, I believe, will help us get there. I would love to dive into a little bit of the specifics in this great report. Representative Sykes, as we mentioned, that you chair the Housing Task Force, and you guys have released the Housing Affordability Agenda. Would you be able to talk a bit about that? What policies interest you the most? What are some that might be overlooked to others?
Absolutely. Well, it has been a great pleasure working with Rep. Budzinski and the New Dems to put together this task force and a group of policy proposals that when we take the House, we can introduce and start working on day one, because we have been working on it now. And so we are the definition of prepared and ready to lead. But when you think about housing, it is the majority of most families' budget. Some financial advisors and planners will say that your housing should only be about 30% of your total budget, but many people are seeing it upwards to 50 to 60% because these prices continue to rise. So what we've been focusing on are a couple of things, and we can kind of narrow up our provisions in buckets of affordability, accessibility, and getting rid of red tape. And we do that through several different ways. The affordability is just as simple as it is. It is about supply. There's just not enough housing to meet the need for what people want. And so we have to make sure that there are single family homes, multifamily homes, apartments, high rises, whatever it is, mobile homes, whatever people want to live in, we need to start building it and putting it out so folks can live there. Now, that is a more long-term solution. But in the meantime, the affordability issue is down payment assistance, tax incentives that allow people to want to sell their homes and get other people into homes. And then the one that I care quite a bit about, which I introduced, the Homes Act, which is decentivizing large corporate private investors from buying up single family homes and pricing people out of the market. That is a huge deal in my community and across the country. We've even seen the president talk about how that's important, but we have yet to see any policy proposals. When I say we are ready to lead on day one, we are ready to lead right now. So we already have the policy proposals to do exactly what the president says he's going to do. We have it right now, and that's a big one. And then the final part is cutting the red tape. The zoning issues are significant. How many parking spaces you need to have? What are the permitting process looks like? That slows down the process to get to our main issue, which is the supply. So we are very comprehensive and we were very thoughtful when we were putting this together to make sure we are addressing the supply, the affordability, cutting red tape, and getting people into homes that they can afford and they like being in.
Can I just say, Representative Sykes, how much I appreciate that you are so involved in this? Because I think there's sometimes like this thing that goes on in housing discourse where it's like only coastal cities that are having affordability problems. And like they are, but it's not only them. Like Ohio is too expensive. Like where I live in Vermont, it's too expensive.
That's such a great point, Gary. Sorry to interrupt you. And I know Rep. Bazinski knows this because we're Midwestern cities. And one of the best parts about the Midwest is that we have a lower cost of living. But even with that, the amount of money that people are making and taking home is starting to become very challenging for them to enjoy the low cost of living that most people enjoy in the Midwest, which makes us so favorable. Even if you don't get a beach or sun all year round, we can at least help you afford where you live. And now once that's a problem, then it becomes very difficult to attract and keep people in our communities.
Next, I'd kind of like to turn to energy, which is another area where, it's family's really hard when the electricity bill is like the only thing you're used to it being, or gas prices at the pump are too high. Representative, I know you've been involved in energy policy for a while, and the New Dems have put out this new energy independence security framework. What do you see as the key to making energy more affordable?
Well, that is energy, and generating more energy is one of the five key pillars in our affordability agenda. It's how do we bring down utility costs? I would tell you in my district alone, since this last summer, I've heard from constituents that they've seen their utility prices spike by up to 24 to 20%. And so this becomes a very critical affordability issue. For the New Dems, we think a couple of things, and I'd highlight 2 points that are in our agenda in particular. One, this administration, the Trump administration, eliminated a lot of the really critical clean energy tax credits that a lot of our communities all across the country were taking advantage of to build a new clean energy economy, to generate more energy, to get it on the grid, to bring down costs. So the Trump administration, by eliminating those investments in clean energy tax credits, actually hurt our ability to address affordability and bring down utility prices, something we would like to, as New Democrats, see us to bring back when we take back the majority. The second is it's exactly what Congresswoman said about housing. We're for cutting red tape. We're for cutting out bureaucracy. We're for building faster, bigger, and doing that now. And I think as it applies to addressing our housing challenges, it equally applies to energy projects. I am an all of the above energy supporter, which means that we need to bring and build all types of energy, which includes renewable and clean energy, obviously, because I know someone as a coalition believes we want to see us get to 100% clean energy transition. That's going to take us time. But in order to accomplish that goal, we've got to get out of the way and allow for these bigger projects to be built. The other thing I would say as it relates to building these clean energy projects that's been challenging is you see the Trump administration actually cut off projects that are almost 80% built. It makes absolutely no sense. So you look at Rhode Island and the offshore wind project, Revolution Wind. The Trump administration, even though this project had been 80% built to generate more energy, to get it on the grid, to bring down utility prices, they tried to cut and eliminate that project from seeing itself to completion. It was challenged in court, and now they're back to building it. But this is common sense. We should allow for energy projects once they've been permitted to be fully built. And we need to make it easier in that permitting process for these projects to come online. I think another point I want to make as we're talking about affordability and bringing down utility prices is by doing this, we're creating a lot of good paying jobs, a lot of good paying union jobs in particular. They union members, a lot of great building and construction trade workers are building the clean energy economy. So when we're investing in energy projects, when we're bringing down utility prices by generating more energy, we're also creating new jobs in our economy. So it's really a win-win-win. And it's something that the new Dems are really leaning into as a part of our affordability agenda.
Yeah, I mean, to your point on wind, this is something that's really frustrating about the Trump administration is that this is an American energy resource that they're strangling for seemingly no reason. Like,
Yeah.
Texas has oil, Iowa's got wind, Illinois' got wind. Like, this is American
Right.
energy that provides good jobs, and it's just baffling to watch
It
them
is. And you
cycle
look at it,
that.
even a state, Gary, like Texas, where now over 50% of their energy that is generated is renewable energy.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the future, but it's also the present. It's right here. We need more projects like that to come online. And that will then help us bring down utility prices.
Well, it's funny that you said for no reason, Gary, because Trump has stated the reason why he does not want any wind projects. He doesn't like the way they look when he goes golfing. He is putting aesthetic preferences over jobs for Americans and ensuring that we can modernize our grid, which has been faltering for quite some time. And now we are just hitting a point where we're reaching energy scarcity. And when it comes to scarcity, you can't just like redistribute your way out of that. It is a supply issue at that point.
Right.
So the fact that we are just like self-inflicting ourselves by stopping these projects, I mean, I'm just very grateful for the courts out there. It's 5-0. He's losing all these cases. The wind projects are going back to being built, but at the same time is money, and we are really dragging our feet here. So it's, for me as a Zoomer, it worries about our current future as we're going to continue to see energy prices just continue. Well, it's a compounding effect. The rent is also going up. The price of food is going up. So I'm very glad to see people like you guys working on an affordability agenda with a large focus on energy, because it's clear it's impacting all Americans. One other area that also affects a lot of people's wallets, and it's something that people have called just about the care economy. It's the cost of taking care of families, the cost of taking care of like the elderly people that you might have as your loved ones or so forth. That's not a sector you can really automate. So costs are going to continue to rise, and we need to figure out, like Gary and I hear from many guests about how childcare is one of the number one straining costs as they are trying to build out their family. For some, it's almost as much as college tuition, which is just like a mind-boggling
Or a
stat to
mortgage.
wrap your head around. So I would love to know how you both are thinking about lowering costs for families during this time.
Certainly. Well, this is, again, when we talk about the affordability, it's always easy to say this one is so high, this one is so high. They're all too high. And every family is trying to make everything make sense, and they're juggling and they're doing a great job, but they shouldn't have to, because there's a lot that we could do. Now, childcare is one of those areas, as you mentioned, is also eating a lot of people's budgets. And it's making people make really different decisions about their life choices, because if people want to start a family, they want to be able to care for their family and have a comfortable way of life. But if there is no way to keep that child cared for with quality daycare or early childhood education, it's going to delay or prohibit people from even engaging in family planning and building a family. And that's something that we need to be mindful of, especially as our population doesn't seem to be keeping up with other countries. But one of the things that I've always admired was the information I got from constituents. And one constituent back when I was in the state house always said to me that people don't need more programs, people need more money. And so the bill that I've introduced that I'm really excited about multiple times is the Lower Your Taxes Act, and it expands the earned income tax credit, which allows for people to get more money when they earn money. Get it? Earned income tax credit, right? So this is an incentive to get people to work, and they can keep more of their money. And then also that bill expands the child tax credit to what we saw during the pandemic, where folks got the money directly paid to them And it is paid for because it increases corporate tax rates and makes sure that those really greedy corporate profiteers are paying their fair share. And as we know, many of them are paying fewer and a lower percentage than any of us are on this call or who are listening to it even pay. So the child tax credit was really remarkable because it helped lower child poverty by half. And once it was gone, those numbers went right back up. But it also gave families the ability to decide how they needed to spend that money. If it was for housing, if it was for school supplies, if it was for a new appliance, it allowed the families to decide what they needed to do. And it gave them the money to have the agency over, which is, again, people don't need the programs, they need more money. And so that is a way to get people their money back. And the Lawyer Taxes Act is a great way to help support folks. But the final thing I'll say here is you probably all heard the big fight around the one big beautiful bill, the one big ugly bill, the reconciliation bill, whatever you want to call it. It was a disaster. And the $1 trillion that it is taking out of Medicaid is so problematic because half of the children in this country are born via a Medicaid program. And so many children across this country use Medicaid to get their health care. And with $1 trillion of cuts across the program, it's going to hit children's hospitals and doctors' offices who care for children, as well as those women and families who are relying on it to pay for their birth care and extended care. And then when we want to get to the other end of the spectrum, it is also the leading payer for long-term care. And so again, we're still not fully aware about how this is going to impact people because some of these rules haven't gone out yet. Some of the states haven't quite figured it out. And then because of the Pay-Go Act, there is a $500 million cut to Medicare. These are for our older adults. So these compounding effects are just too much for Americans to bear. And it is why we thought it was so important as New Dems to get ahead of this affordability crisis, to start sharing with the American public what we are going to do in order to make their lives easier and better and more affordable. And we are ready on day one to roll these things out. And we are going to keep our promises, unlike what we heard from this administration, because we have the ideas. We're ready to roll them out. All we need are the gavels.
I wanted to highlight one thing you said there about the Medicaid cuts, and we still don't really know. I know a lot of the rural hospitals in Vermont are really worried because there's this like extra money that got given to rural hospitals, but it's totally swamped by all of the Medicaid cuts. And it's like, it's really bad. Like, you know, a lot of rural areas, like where I live, like healthcare access is a challenge, and losing rural hospitals is like a big deal. So I kind of wanted to just highlight that. The other thing that you mentioned that I really wanted to underline is one of the great things about the child tax credit is, as you say, families can use it how they want. Like some families want 2 people in the workforce and they use at a center daycare. Some people want one of the parents working part-time and then they use a daycare 2 days a week. Some stay at home. And the great thing about the CTC is that it's all good. Like your family gets to decide like how you want to use that.
And they know better than we do. They know how they need to spend the money much better than we do. And we need to
100%.
give them that opportunity.
Yeah, 100%.
In addition to like helping families keep what they've earned, I also just want to mention, as a part of the family care kind of platform we have, we do support universal pre-K. And I also think paid family medical leave, those are just 2 policy points that I just wanted to add in addition to what Congresswoman Sykes shared. That is a part of it as well, that I think will be invaluable tools. We also speak a little bit to elderly care. We talk a lot about childcare and the importance of that, but I also just want to emphasize our plan includes elderly care as well, because that's also when we talk about caregivers. And I know in the state of Illinois, 1 in 6 adults is actually a family caregiver. They're juggling a job, maybe childcare, and maybe a parent living in their home. It's a lot of pressure. So I just want to lastly quickly mention we do address that in our plan too.
Oh, for sure. When I talk to my friends and relatives about cost of living, rising cost, one of the things that I notice that people are just really consistently frustrated by is high grocery prices. You have to eat. It's not like you can do without, you know. We've touched on this a bit, but Congresswoman Sykes, since you're working on this with the Problem Solvers Caucus, what do you think we need to fix to help bring down high grocery prices?
Tariffs. Our farmers are screaming at us about how the markets have closed for them, how it's so much more expensive to get product for themselves in their farms, and those costs are being spread out. I mean, you name it, it has some type of foreign component, whether people like it or not. It is the reality of where we are. And in a state like Ohio, where we trade back and forth with Canada, sometimes some of these raw materials go back and forth across the border 5, 6, 7, 8 times. They're getting taxed because that's what a tariff is, a tax each time they cross the border. And they're not absorbing, as in these corporations, they're not absorbing the cost. They were able to earlier in the year, but now that the inventory is not there, they have to pass it off. So if you already felt like your costs were high, they're only getting higher because these tariffs are withstanding, and our farmers are struggling, our manufacturers are struggling. And when you think about grocery, it's not just the food product, it's the packaging, it's the transport, it's all of the parts and access that is required in order for you to get your food. So the grocery store, every time I leave the grocery store, I am floored with how much everything costs, and everything just keeps going up and up and up. And I appreciate the grocers trying to put like little yellow and red stickers, lower the cost. It's just not working. I mean, I think they're trying, but they're not. It's just not working. And so the net cost that it is to produce all of these different products, they just keep going higher and higher and higher. And people are saying the tariffs are creating untenable situations, unaffordability. But for some reason, Trump is just holding on to those things for dear life. And it is making all of our communities suffer.
I would love nothing more than for that to be the party line on tariffs from now through November. That is just perfect. We like to wrap up with a couple of rapid fire questions. Just a little lighthearted thing, if you don't mind. I guess we'll start with Representative Budzinski. Outside of housing, what is something that you think is too expensive?
Beef. I would say, just adding what like Congresswoman Sykes said at the grocery store. I mean, beef alone has gone up by over 15%. I serve on the House Agriculture Committee, and we're always trying to figure out how do we help get to families healthy foods, fresh fruits and vegetables. We don't grow bananas here. Those costs are going up. Beef is going up. And we have a president who rather allow more Argentinian beef to be imported into the United States and to support our cattle ranchers. And so I'd say beef would be my answer.
I agree with you there. Why tariff banana? Why do we do these things?
Yeah.
It just makes no sense at all. And as you mentioned, this is just something he has refused to let go of. One of like Powell's recent meeting statements, he said like inflation should only go up once if there are no more tariff increasements. I'm like, that's a big if you are holding on to. I would not rely on that.
Right.
Representative Sykes, I'll pass that same question to you, and we'll jump in for our last couple of ones.
So I'm going to stick with dairy, but a little bit different because I have a sweet tooth. Ice cream. Our dairy farmers are struggling big time. Many of them are family farms, and beyond just the tariffs, just many of the policies. But I love ice cream. I love all things that are sweet and sugary, but we're also seeing the cost of dairy, the milk, the eggs. That's not dairy, obviously, but it's a part of the ice cream. And it is one of those things. I wish ice cream was a little less expensive.
Are you sure you represent Ohio? Because I feel like you would fit in with the Vermont caucus right now. Really
well, I've got a dairy farm in my district, so I've got to think about, those kinds of things too.
That's great. So I want to ask you about maybe some more unorthodox policy ideas. So like I got this idea that I would love Patriots Day, which is the day that commemorates the Battle of Lexington and Concord. It's in April. Every year, the whole of Massachusetts gets the day off. Marathon Monday. It's great. I would love for that to be like a federal holiday. So I'm curious, do you have any of your own sort of unorthodox ideas that you think would actually be like really great that people would like? We'll go with Representative Budzinski first.
Sure. I don't know if it's totally unorthodox, but I know in the Midwest, I'm sure Congresswoman Sykes agrees, like getting a year-round E15, getting that done is something that would help us in the Midwest. I think a lot of people don't know what that is, but we grow a lot of corn, which means we create a lot of ethanol. And there's a way for us to increase our amount of ethanol that is within our at the gas pump, which actually supports our growers and does bring down costs at the gas pump. It also has a lower carbon emissions. So again, it's one of those like triple wins. We talk a lot about it in the Midwest, but on the coast, they talk about it a little less. But it's something that's a policy initiative that would make a real difference, I think, for our growers.
Representative Sykes?
So my policy is food as medicine and instituting food pharmacies where you go to your health care provider, and if you have a chronic disease or something that you're trying to manage, you get a prescription for food so that you can get fresh produce. So when I was in the state house, and even now I've been working on increasing food pharmacies. And so work I've done has created food pharmacies in 3 of the hospitals that I represent. And patients get a prescription. They go downstairs to the fruit pantry. There's fresh produce, there's grains, there's rice, there's flour. And sometimes if it's really robust, they'll have toiletries. And it allows people to get the food that they need that helps them with their health journeys and helps increase better, healthier lifestyles. And also just creates, an opportunity for folks to feel well and whole. We know kids don't learn well if they're hungry. They don't go to school if they're sick. So it's a way to combine everything in a low impact, low barrier, but also it is very welcoming and a really interesting way to make sure wellness is incorporated into the healthcare system.
Food is literally fuel, and nutrition is such a big part of your health. So I really do love that idea. This will be our final one, but what is a policy or innovation that you guys believe is underrated, is not discussed enough? Representative Budzinski, we'll start with you.
I would say in partnership, I rolled out with End Citizens United an anti-corruption agenda. I think what's happening in the White House right now is completely outrageous. There's a number of really good pieces of legislation to clean up Washington, but the one that I'm working on introducing is on what they call the prediction markets. So right now it's legal on different prediction market platforms like Pocket, for myself or any of my staff to take wagers on bets that could mean, questions that are currently on Polymarket is, will the United States bomb Iran again? Like, there are questions that because of the work that we do on Capitol Hill, we might be privy to information that would affect a wager or a bet. I'm looking at legislation to eliminate and make that illegal for basically members or our staff to take advantage of those types of polymarket betting with insider information. And I think those are the kind of things that, while they sound wonky, actually I think would demonstrate to voters that, we're trying to clean up Washington and that we really need to be doing that. I think people, at least I know I do, you see what's happening in the White House, the fact that Donald Trump has profited by about $1.5 billion since coming into office on different investments. It's shady, and we need to clean it up. And I think the prediction markets could be one area that would be interesting to look at.
I completely agree. I live in Los Angeles, and the amount of billboards here are horrendous. It's a different story. But one that blows my mind is one from a prediction market company where it asks you to download the app and bet on when the car in front of you will move. I'm like, that is just asking for a traffic accident. I couldn't believe my eyes when I saw it. Representative Sykes, we'll end the last one with you. Something you might think is a bit underrated for a policy or innovation.
Yes, I'm going to certainly give you one. So I had a past career as a law clerk for a bankruptcy judge, and bankruptcy law is very underrated. Now, most people don't want anything to do with it, and that's fair. But the system as it's set up right now allows for large corporations to take advantage of significant and gaping loopholes so that they can avoid liability when they do harm. Think of the Purdue family with the opioid settlements and Johnson & Johnson with the talc powder. They've been able to try to mitigate their liability to harming their customers through these bankruptcy loopholes. Meanwhile, individual debtors have so many barriers to actually using the bankruptcy code, and they can't do things like discharge their student loan debts, which continues to keep people unable to be financially free. So the bankruptcy code needs some 2026 touches to address what's going on in real life and meet the needs of individual debtors, not just the rich, wealthy corporations who've been using it to avoid liability and keep themselves wealthy.
That's amazing. And thank you for shedding light on that, because bankruptcy law is something that is so incredibly niche. So to ever shed a light on that, my husband clerked for a bankruptcy judge a while ago. So he will be very happy to listen into that. So I appreciate that. Thank you both for making the time to be here with us. This has been a great episode. Yeah. Everyone watching, please ensure that you are reading this agenda. It will be linked. We will post it. And we are just very excited to take on the midterms.
Thank you.
You.
Thank you.